Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So, a little update on the T-38 project. So I have the mount set up for the turbines. So these are 1/4-inch birch plywood, marine grade rails. So as you can see, they go into the fuselage. They're about 8 inches long. They go halfway, half of it goes into the fuselage. And I've cut down through the foam to the skin. So these connect to the outside skin, and then I have fillets, some epoxy and micro balloon fillets, followed up by a layer of heavy glass to tie it all into the structure. It went from pretty flexible back here to being rock solid. So it wasn't that flexible, but you could grab these upper and lower skins and squeeze them just a little bit, but now it's just like it's totally solid. So anyways, and I tied the two beams together so you could grab the turbines before, and you could bend these plywood pieces obviously a little bit. So I tied them together and gave the screw something extra to bite into as well. So I put these beams across. Now it's just really solid. So I cleaned up the foam around because it was all kind of hammered in here. It looked like crap. So I kind of smoothed out everything as best I could and then glassed it. So that is all solid. I'm going to throw some black paint in here just to kind of keep it from being able to see that through the back end, because the turbines are so small in here, you'll see right through there. Okay, so that's that. And then what I did, so I cut this whole section off so I can mount the turbines back here. And what I've done here is I had to clearance out all the foam. This was kind of a mess in here too, so I sanded it all smooth, clearanced it for these beams. See, I've got those spots, those 4 spots. Then I did a lighter layup in here with a couple extra layers right there and up there. So those spots you see, that's actually the skin on the other side. So it's the foam's all the way gone, and it's straight fiberglass. Alright, so I had that extra cloth in there to beef those areas up. So now that's solid skin on the outside. See that hole right there? And I got a hole up here. That's solid skin now. I need to redo all this metal tape back here. It's hammered from when I lost the batteries out of the thing and made a super nose high touchdown and just jacked these up. Anyways, it's not pretty. This whole airplane, if you look close, it's not pretty. So stay far away from it. Anyways, so the way this works is you see these holes in here. So basically, once the turbines are in, this slips on, screw here, screw there, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. So that was a dual purpose structure that I added, which I really wasn't planning on. I was trying to figure out how I was going to hold this thing on, and then it just kind of worked out, and I used it to keep my added structure down to a minimum. So I did that. So the turbines got 6 screws on each side. Like I said, I'm going to throw a little black paint in here. I'll probably seal up this foam right here. Let's see. I can't remember. Oh, I don't think I even talked about in the last video mounting the turbines back here. So originally I had intended, just like most other turbine jets, to mount the turbines up here where the fans were. That would have necessitated a 48-inch long tailpipe, which would have weighed probably at least a pound, if not more. And it cost me about $500 for 2 of them, and that was going to be a good deal. And now you have all the heat inside that you have to worry about and everything else. Well, when the turbines showed up, they're so small compared to the airplane. They're pretty light. They're only a 1 3/4 pound a piece. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if I mount them in the back, 1, I don't lose any thrust through the thrust pipe, through the tube, because of the length. 2, I don't have the weight from the tube back here. 3, I have no heat inside the fuselage anymore, which is good with a foam airplane and any airplane really, because there's servo wires and stuff. If you have a flame out or a wet start, or the motor for whatever reason takes a dump and it starts to pour fuel and catch on fire while it's flying, as soon as those servo wires get the fire on, they melt, the insulation melts, the wires touch, it shorts out the whole radio, and now your airplane's going into the ground. So I basically eliminated all those issues. So The drawback is that, yes, I will have to add nose weight, but I was going to have to add nose weight anyways, especially with a couple pounds worth of pipe back here. And when I only had 3¼ pounds worth of turbines to begin with, and then the turbines also would have been behind the CG, just not that far, but a good foot behind the CG anyways. So I did some math, and the motors are actually closer to the CG than the front of the airplane is. So it's going to take less weight in the nose than the turbines weigh to balance it all out. So it also leaves this whole section here just totally open, which is really nice for mounting the fuel pumps and the receiver and the fuel tanks and everything else. So there was a whole bunch of pluses to go on this route. It will need more nose weight. I debated running all my battery packs up in the nose, which is an option, but now you have a pound or two worth of wires that run all the way forward. And yes, that's nose weight, but it's nose weight along this whole area instead of just all the way up here. So I would have had to have added more nose weight, plus the weight of the wires, plus all that. So I'm still going to have the batteries up here. It just makes it easier. It's easier to get to. Yes, I'll have more nose weight, but I also won't have extra dead weight in this area that's not really doing a whole lot to help me with the CG. So anyways, that's my reasoning behind putting the turbines in the back. They're freaking tiny. I'll bolt them on and show you guys how small they look inside of here. It's kind of comical, but anyways, you look at it and you go, is this thing even going to fly? It's going to have more thrust than it was EDF, so yes, it's going to fly, and probably fly pretty well. So anyways, let me get some black paint on here. Let me get the turbines mounted back up so you guys can see what they look like. And let me roll this thing over so I can show you some other stuff that I did. So remember before when I said the inside of this is ugly. This actually looks better than it did before. This will get painted black again. But I noticed on the outside of the airplane, in this area right here, I had a crack in the fiberglass on the outside. Now the fiberglass skin on this is really thick, and it's basically the structure of the airplane. I mean, the foam is structural, yes, but the fiberglass is what makes it strong enough to handle all these loads. So none of this was glass before. The glass stopped right here, and it was glass a little bit along here, and that's it. So I have these patches right here and right here from when the fans blew up one time, and shrapnel just went everywhere, and it went through the skin on both sides, and it was a mess. So anyways, so to beef up the turtle deck and basically the whole airplane from flexing back and forth, which is what was happening with the elevator loads flexing the fuselage right over this structural break here, right? So now I'm getting fuselage flex because there was no structure up here minus the outer skin. So the outer skin was cracking just a little bit, so I'm like, you know what, I need to beef this thing up. So now I have glass all the way across here, which is across this rounded surface and this rounded surface, which will make this just like way stronger than it was before, which is a good thing. And once I get my receiver mount figured out and my fuel pump mounts in and my UAT mounts in, glued in, I'm going to glue in some plywood blocks. That's when I'm going to paint this all black to make it look presentable. So, all right, so basically that's what we got here. And yes, I know those aren't perfectly cylindrical. Again, this airplane is not nice when you start looking at it in detail. Anyways, so turbines are mounted in there. As you can see, I got big open fuselage for the air to flow through. So yes, they are sunken in a little bit, but I mean the vortex of air coming out of here is super narrow, and it'll pull cool air from the fuselage around it. So if there is a hot start or a wet start, the only thing that might be damaged, well, that would be damaged, would be these tail cones and probably a little bit of melting up in here or something. That's like worst case scenario. I got to build something new like this. Not the end of the world. It's better than burning the whole airplane down. So anyways, that's what you're looking at there. Again, just kind of like lightly sprayed some flat black inside just to kind of hide it. Looks like poo, but it looks better than the glass. Anyways, so yeah, pretty comical to see these little jet engines back here. You're gonna think, they ain't gonna fly. Well, it's got, like I said earlier, it's got more thrust. So these are 17.5 pounds of thrust each. So 35 total, which isn't a ton, but the airplane was probably only making about 30 pounds with the EDFs installed in the plane. Those EDFs will make 17 to 18 pounds of thrust on a test stand with no tailpipe in perfect world environments, not with a 4-foot long tailpipe and less than desirable inlet air and all kinds of crazy things going on. So, and that's just the thrust aspect of it. Then you're talking about the efflux speed of the air coming out. These are probably at least double what the EDFs are. So yes, it's going to fly probably pretty well on these little turbines. It'll probably actually fly very scale-like. It should have a little better vertical, should be a little faster, and obviously double flight times, maybe even more than double. Maybe could even fly for 3 times as long. So I got these 80-ounce Dubro tanks, so got to mount those. So it's 10 pounds of fuel right there, and I'll be able to put that right over the top of the CG basically. So that's a super nice plus. Those are gonna, I'll probably have to notch out some of these inlets, which isn't a huge deal because that's still plenty of air. And then the tanks will sit right in here. So super easy, nice access to everything. So anyways, pretty pumped. And I like having the easy access to the turbines. So 2 screws, the whole back end comes off, easy peasy. So I can do, test flight with this off, make sure everything's kosher, and obviously engine runs and stuff on the ground. Not have to worry about wet starts and everything else. So anyways, pretty stoked on that. Now I just got to mount the fuel pumps, the fuel valves, and the UATs. All right, so I cut a little notch out of each inlet duct. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see back there to the tank. So the tanks will sit just forward of the CG. I don't want them to be right on the CG because when the fuel sloshes back, it could cause issues. So it's like CG's probably right about here. So anyways, it'll be somewhere right in this spot. I got to make a mount that I can strap these in with, and probably something that just goes across top to keep them in from falling out. I got to build something, keep it light, because I'm already adding a bunch of weight to this thing that I don't want to add. So let's see. So this is where the lipos used to sit, all 10 pounds worth. So now I'm going to have 10 pounds of fuel back here, but obviously I don't have to run all 80 ounces. I can, once I fly to figure out how much fuel I need, I'll probably end up filling it up less to get a 10-minute flight or 8-minute flight. So I got my 2 UATs, which I'll probably mount forward of the CG just to help out a little bit. Somewhere up in here, 1 on each side. And I'll have my check valves probably up here where I can get to them real easy. The pumps will be right back here, just purely based off of wire length from the ECU and all that stuff. So I don't want to have to extend any of that stuff. So I'm going to end up extending the battery cables from the ECU up to the batteries, which I'll still try and run them up here as far forward as I can get them, just to help. So I'll have my receiver packs right up here, my turbine packs up here, which will kind of help with the CG. Not a whole lot, since it's pretty close to the CG's right about here. So they'll only be up here, and there's 10 pounds of pack up here before. So I don't think 1.5 pounds of batteries a foot in front of the CG, considering this thing weighs 40-something pounds wet, isn't going to make much of a difference. But anyways, that's where we're at. I'm out of time tonight. It's dark. Got to work tomorrow. So anyways, I got to mount these. I got these little 3D printed mounts that I bought from Pacific Jets, or Pacific Turbine, I forget what it's called. Anyways, they're the King Tech dealers in California. Same same UAT and same mounts that I have in my Panther. I was happy with them. So yep, that's it. That's how she looks. Little baby turbines on the back of this thing. It's pretty comical, but pretty stoked on how the whole thing kind of just came together as far as the mounting and everything else. Pretty sweet, pretty simple, not too much extra weight, so pretty soon we'll be shooting some heat out of there. And yeah, it's awkward to work on this thing because you'll move the stand around and realize that you almost hit something because it's way over there. So yeah, that's the wing, and that's a 90mm Hawk right above it, so gives you an idea of just how much wing area this thing has. It's a whole bunch. And I have to tape the gear because these are spring down, so they'll spring out if I take the tape off. Because it's so big, I can't have the gear hanging down because I'll hit my head on them all the time. Hit my head on this bomb like almost every day, so that would not be good. That's why I got blue tape on this thing. Anyways, hope you guys liked the video. Pretty stoked. Shouldn't take a whole lot much more work. Just I got to mount the ECUs, mount the pumps, mount the UATs, mount the tanks, and then hook everything up, finish the receiver install, and then it's ready to go. So I would say a good solid day's worth of work, maybe 2 days tops, but this thing will be ready to go. This week we got St. George, the RC event in St. George, which I'm taking the Vindicator and the F-18 to, as well as a bunch of Bentley's airplanes. So I'm gone pretty much all this next week. I have the week after that to work on this thing. And then I'm going to San Diego for 2 weeks for work, so I'll be gone. And that's when Best in the West happens right after that. So it won't be done. I won't be going to Best in the West, which is unfortunate because I was kind of hoping to go. But anyways, I was going to take the Panther and the T-38, but that's not going to work out this year. But hopefully next year I'll have the Panther repainted. This might even be repainted. We'll see. I still want to redo the whole cockpit, canopies, paint jobs. It's rough. The body on this thing's all beat up. So anyways, we'll get this thing all sorted out. These little baby tiny turbines in here working, and should be freaking awesome. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And next video, all the install stuff should be done, and we'll probably be doing engine runs. So that should be the next video. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next one.